Good afternoon, this is Lucky Links. This is a video about intuition, intuitive reading, cards, Lenormand, tarot, dice, whatever you're using as an oracle. Now, I have said a million times on this station that you have to use your intuition when tapping into and using an oracle. There is no question about it, because if you cut yourself off from your intuition, well, you're only going to get so far. But there's another extreme that can happen where people completely ignore and dismiss the power of the tool and tap into their own biases, prejudices instead, project them onto the person that they're reading, and then they call it intuition. Now, this is a really big thing that I'm seeing right now, especially with young readers or people who are just starting to do readings. They want to immediately set themselves up as a professional reader. They have very little experience learning what the cards can do, what the tools can do, what the archetypes mean. And then they dive right in and they say, well, I'm doing an intuitive reading. I've seen the same thing in astrology. When I was doing Western astrology and doing people's charts, there was a whole slew of people who were just diving in and saying whatever and calling it intuition. Intuition and psychic faculty, and I really got to put this out there because it's kind of annoying to see. If you can't use reason, if you can't use discernment, if you can't develop wisdom, if you can't put things into context, if you can't look at the patterns of something and see where the patterns of something are going, if you can't see how the pieces of a puzzle fit together and look at the bigger picture, you're not using intuition, you're not using psychic faculty, you're going off of vague emotions and feelings. And vague emotions of feelings are one of the things that get in the way of a person being able to get an accurate read. So if you're seeing a person, or a person does a read for you, and they don't seem to know what the meanings of the cards are, because the meanings of the cards are important. So for example, if I'm doing a reading and I don't know that the Two of Cups means that there's a relationship involved, if I don't understand that the Magician means you have to employ processes to make something come into being, if I don't know that this might indicate competition, well, then I can start to project all sorts of stuff on it and project it onto the person that I'm reading. Now, I've said in other videos that you really got to get yourself out of the way to get an accurate read. And people right now are taking whatever the buzzword is, whatever the dominant psychological meme is, and they're taking the cards and they're going, well, I think that you're an X or a Y. If you're using the cards to label people, or if you're using the cards to put a person in a bad light so that you feel better, chances are you're probably projecting and you're not really getting and tapping into the wisdom of the cards. Now, I've said this a million times. There's a reason why I always encourage people to use cards or dice or something like that, because there's a connection that you're actually making with the being in the deck, and there's an actual archetypal image here that you can use as a sort of test or a checkpoint to make sure that you're not going crazy off the rails. If you're saying this means a happy summer's day where everything's peaceful and everyone is getting along, then you're probably not looking into or really understanding what this archetypal energy is. So when we read cards, when we read an oracle, it is an interplay between your experience, your understanding, your knowledge of what's going on in the world, your ability to tap into the person with you and play off of this archetypal image, energy, whatever you want to call it. There are all sorts of things out there, not just spirits. There's all sorts of different kinds of beings and situations, impressions that a person could tap into, or that could influence a person, that could get them to project garbage onto other people so easily. And there is an awful lot of that going on right now. So realize that there's more to intuition, there's more to reading than just snapping open a deck of cards, throwing it down and read the meaning, either the meaning on the oracle card, or saying, well, I have some vague feelings, that's my intuition. This is an art, and it takes time to develop an understanding and a fluency with the language of the cards. So if you don't take the time to develop the language and understanding of the language, then you're doing the people that you're reading for and yourself a disservice. So remember, more to cards, more to intuition than just, well, I have a feeling, I'm going to project onto the other person. The key is getting yourself out of the way. I've said that a million times. If you guys want to get a reading from me, contact me 779-302-8009 or conjurehope@gmail.com is my email. If you want to get your astrology chart done, and then we can actually look at what sorts of areas of your life are being influenced by the unseen. And there's all sorts of areas where the unseen can influence you. Contact me same way. If you'd like to take a class on how to read the tarot, in my basic class, I start with a whole bunch of summary meanings, and the students only read the summary meanings for the first part of the class, and they're finding a huge set of accuracy from just reading the summary meanings, and then we move them into developing their intuition off of those understanding of the summary meanings. And then you start to understand that there's multiple layers that you can read from, and then your readings become really powerful. If you like to learn how to read the tarot, if you like to learn how to read Lenormand, crystal ball, or Mexican Loteria, and I take the same approach with all of them, contact me 779-302-8009 or conjurehope@gmail.com.